Hey guys, so I thought I'd bring an overview of the top 5 most played rogue decks in ranked matches online on Dueling Book since the December 2020 ban list came into effect, based on data from ygeoscope.com. In this video, I'm going to show you guys a sample deck list for each rogue deck based on recent deck profiles from other channels, which I will credit them and give the appropriate links in the description below, and also provide a cost overview of the deck list. And if you want to see more videos that involve data and Yu-Gi-Oh, consider liking the video and subscribing. So let's get started. Alright, so keep in mind that the rankings and the data presented in this video are based on January 11th, 2021, so by the time you see this video, the rankings and the numbers may be different. Anyways, at number 5 we have Shaddoll, which has a 43% win rate so far, so not looking too good at the moment. It's honestly a solid deck though, where it's control type deck that tends to bring out a window on your opponent's turn to restrict their special summoning, but also have the capability to OTK the next turn with the typical access code talker setup. Now the overall rank number you see here indicates that out of all decks played online on Dueling Book, this is the 13th most commonly played deck in ranked matches, so it's actually quite popular among all players. Here we see a deck list provided by El Exordio del Duelista, one of my favorite channels for gameplays, and make sure to check their channel out. So for this sample list, I selected something that uses the new Magistus cards, which provide additional consistency in its combos for their fusion plays, because one thing with pure Shaddolls is that they have the tendency to break by either drawing all Shaddoll monsters and no fusion spells, or just fusion spells. As for the price, I recorded every card's price based on the average price listed on TCG Player for the cheapest rarity possible. Now this exact list is quite expensive, especially since El Exordio first posted this video, because Forbidden Droplet, Shaddoll Schism, and Magistus Ver have all went up a ton lately. So in total, this exact list was about $474 US as of January 11th. Now if you were to just look at the cost of the core cards, then it comes to around $123 instead. I would say you should totally start with the 3 Shaddoll structure decks, as that will provide the bulk of the deck, and unfortunately Schism does not come with the deck and it's going to be the costliest of the cards listed here. The Magistus cards aren't necessary either, and if you have other engines already like Invoked, then you could totally go that route instead, although of course the Invoked engine is still pretty expensive for people that don't already have them. There's also the Trap heavy version that Pac likes to go with as well, so you can check that out on his channel too, and I'll link that in the description. At number 4 we have everyone's favorite Sky Striker. While no longer the tier 1 deck it once was, the deck just never dies and continues to be a popular rogue choice. Overall it was the 12th most played deck and had a win percentage of 47, so a bit lower than what it was in previous formats. Another control deck that takes advantage of its really strong spells and that can negate, pop, take, and just about do everything. It actually got some support just as it dropped off from tier 1 status by getting new monsters in Rose and Zeke. As for a recent sample deck list, this was a profile on Asian Persuasion's channel of a second place OTS list, which I would say is pretty standard, although I omit the 2 Potted Desires instead of 3 triggers me a little bit. Sky Strikers are known to play a lot of hand traps, and while Effect Veiler is pretty bad right now, it's typically played because you can bring it out with Halqifibrax and then go into Selene, and then Selene can bring back the Veiler, and then you can go into Access Code Talker so that you can try to kill your opponent. Interestingly enough, this list does not play Zeke, the linked to Sky Striker monster. As for the price, the deck honestly has a great price point. This exact list, just the main and extra only and not including the side, comes to about $228 US. If you were to look specifically at just the Sky Striker core cards, then it comes to around $62. Most of the price is honestly driven by Rose, which is about $15 each on its own, so the rest of the cards are really cheap. At number 3 we have Altergeist. Now some may argue that this is more of a tier 2 deck, which is fair, but to be honest the definition of rogue is kind of murky right now, and at least we can agree that it's not some top tier deck. Anyways, it is the 11th most played deck overall on Dueling Book and has an astounding 59% win rate in ranked matches. It is yet another control deck, but instead of focusing on spells, it is extremely trap reliant. With Multi-Faker coming back to 3 in the June ban list, this deck has been really popular online since. So the sample deck list was based on a profile by Orthrus165, who finished top 8 in a 150-man tournament, and I'll link his profile down below. Pretty standard list. I mean, typically you always see Impermanence in Altergeist because of its interaction with Multi-Faker on your opponent's turn, but right now Imperm is pretty bad, so I guess that's why he's not playing them. The deck typically does not care about the extra deck since they use Extravagance, so that part is nice. As for the cost, this particular list is about $325, and remember this price does not include the side deck. Of course, the biggest money cards in this list include Pot of Extravagance, Ice Dragon's Prison, which has been going up a lot in the recent months, and also Access Code Talker in the extra deck. If you look at the price of the core Altergeist cards only, then it comes to about $90, and about 70 of that is from a playset of Pot of Extravagance alone, so the actual Altergeist cards are dirt cheap. So a great option to consider if you're looking for a rogue deck. At number 2, we have yet another deck that never dies, Burning Abyss. With the most recent December 2020 ban list that released Graph and Seer to 3, the deck has been quite popular online, being the 10th most played deck overall with a 47% win rate. Now there's different Burning Abyss builds, either the trap heavy control version or the one that plays the Phantom Knights engine, which also has been popular since the release of Torn Scales and Phantom Rage. For the sample deck list, I'm going to go with the more pure Burning Abyss variant, which is available from Grim YGO's channel, where he did a deck profile with Kenny, who came top 4 in the PPG Players Championship with this list. Nice to see Graph and Seer at 3, and this list also plays several hand traps, although not as many traps, where he sticks with just Solemn Strike and Torrential Tribute. As for the cost, this particular list is very expensive at about $700, and this is because of the playset of Forbidden Droplet and the playset of AA Zeus. So those 6 cards alone add up to a little over $500 in average price on TCG Player, so that's where the bulk of the cost is coming from. And if you look at the price of just the core cards, and I also just threw in a playset of Fiendish Rhino in here because the deck list here didn't seem to play it, well, the core is quite cheap at just $40. It's a deck that's been good for a long time, so a good option if you want to play a new rogue deck. And finally, our number 1 rogue deck is Salamangreat. It's still so weird to see this deck drop to rogue tier status, where it was tier 1 for quite some time and was at that level just before the lockdown started. Anyways, it's also the 8th most played deck overall, so it's really popular and has about a 49% win rate so far. The deck is very resilient and grindy, being able to make use of their strong traps like Rage that pop and Roar that negates, with a lot of recursion of resources in their playstyle. The release of Access Code Talker and Parallel Exceed and Eternity Code really pumped up their strength too. As for the recent sample list, here's one available on Rufio's channel. I think it's pretty standard, although I think he is missing the Update Jammer in his extra deck. The Impermanence and Nibiru could probably be switched around for the current format since those hand traps are not too hot right now. As for the price, the deck is also very good for its bang for buck value. This exact list would cost about $265, and really a lot of that is driven by Access Code Talker and the Imperms, the latter of which you don't even need to use right now. The price of the core cards is only about $30, and you are best off buying the 3 of the Soulburner structure decks. Well, you'll also get common Ash Blossoms in there as well. There are still cards that you need to get outside of the structure decks like Lady Debug, Parallel Exceed, Signet Minings, and Sunlight Wolf, all of which got reprints since the structure deck released and are pretty cheap. Alright guys, so that's it for the most popular rogue decks online on Dueling Book. Hope you found this video useful and got yourself motivated to play a new rogue deck for the format. That's it from me guys, take care.